Let's graph some linear equations. So every linear equation is of the form y equals b plus mx. Or we can call this y equals mx plus b. Either way, they say the same thing. Because of the commutative property, we can add in either order. The y-intercept is the b value. That's where the line begins on the y-axis. And the m is the slope. That's how the line moves. So we're going to use the b plus mx idea. So if that's our general form, the example that we're given on the left here says y equals -9 minus 3/2 x. So our b value is not always the first number, it's the number that is a constant which has no variable next to it. So that would be the -9. Whereas the m is the coefficient, which is the number in front of a variable. So that would be the -3/2. We've got to use that negative in the slope. So this line is going down. Because the slope is negative from left to right, that means our line is going down, something like this. But obviously that's just a quick sketch. We're going to graph it more accurately than that. So we're going to start at the b value. This tells us where to begin. So we're going to start on the y-axis at -9. That'll be our first point. So -9 is right down here. And then we're going to move, so this is our beginning. And then we're going to move using our slope. Our slope is -3/2. You'll notice here that I took the negative that was on the side and I put it with the 3. It could actually go with either part of the fraction or be out front, but I'm going to choose to put it up with the 3 because I usually think of the rise as going up or down. So, because slope is always rise over run. So what this is saying is we're going to rise -3 and we're going to run 2. So from our -9, where we started, where we began, we're going to now move using -3/2. -3 rise, 2 run. So from -9, we want to go down 3 and then run 2. So right 2. This means down and right. You'll notice here that I'm kind of out of space though. At -9, if I try to go down 3, I actually go off the grid here a little bit, because going down 1 would be -10, then -11, and then -12 would be somewhere down here, and then running 2 over here. Now normally I don't put dots off the grid, but just to make sure we're kind of starting off somewhere nice, I'm going to put a dot down here that would kind of show where that would be. So right around here. So instead of going down 3 and right 2, I'm going to switch this a little bit, because I have to work backwards with this pattern in order to get any dots on the grid. So instead of down and right, a different way would be going this way. That would still be the line, just on the other part of the graph. So the opposite of down and right would be up and left. So we can actually go up 3 and left 2, and that will follow the same pattern. So from -9, I'm going to count up 3. 1, 2, 3, and left 2. 1, 2. And you'll notice here that that point lines up with the other point I sketched in down below. That's why I put it off the grid, even though I don't suggest you do that normally when you're putting plots on a grid. And I'm going to keep going. So up 3, left 2, just following this pattern backwards. And that'll help me put coordinates on the grid. And you'll notice that this is the same relationship, because up 3, left 2, if I just start at one of these other points, it's the same as down 3, right 2. Down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2. It's the exact same slope, it's just we had to work backwards in order to fill in the grid. And then from here, I've got way more points than I need. You only really need 2, but I often suggest doing more than 2 to make sure that your line is accurate. I usually do at least 3 or 4. So I'm going to use my ruler, make a nice long line. I go a little bit off the grid on either side to make sure I filled up the space as best as I can. And I'm going to put arrows on the ends to show this line could keep going. There's no context here to say that it shouldn't. And I'm going to label this line with the equation of the line. So this is y equals -9 minus 3/2 x. Because eventually we'll get more than one line on the same grid, or more than one graph in the same grid. So it's important to know which one's which. So in this case, we only have one, but let's still label it so we know that this is the equation of this line. Time for one more example here. So for this one, it's very similar. It's just in a little bit different order. So instead of b plus mx form, it's actually written mx plus b. It's got the slope first. And again, we can tell the slope comes first because that's the number in front of x. So that's the slope. And then our y-intercept is negative 5. That's the b value. So we're going to begin our graph at the b value. So I'm going to say at b value of negative 5. This is on the y-axis. That'll be our first point, negative 5. And then we're going to move using our slope. And our slope is 2. But 2 is not super helpful the way it's written, because we'd like to use actually a fraction, believe it or not. We like fractions for slope. So 2 is our slope, but let's make it a fraction, because we want to see the rise and the run. And right now it looks like there's no run, and there really is. To make any number a fraction, we put it over 1, because that means divide by 1, and it doesn't change the value to divide by 1. So we're going to rise by 2, and we're going to run by 3, or by 1, sorry. So from this negative 5, we're going to rise by 2 and run by 1. So all positive numbers here, so we're going to go up for the rise this time, and it's always going to be right. The only time we go a run left is because we had to work backwards for the last example in order to make it fit, but usually the run will be going to the right. The rise just could be up or down. If it's negative, then it's going down. If it's a positive, then the rise is going up. So from this negative 5, I'm going to go up 2 and 1 to the right. So up 2, 1 here, up 2, 1 there. And that'll help me make these dots, these coordinate points. So 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. And this is, again, way more points than what I need. We only need 2 points to make a line, but this is just going to help us make our line very accurately. So there we go. My line goes off the grid a little bit on either direction. Arrows on the ends, because there's no reason not to. There's no context here, no story that says that the arrows wouldn't make sense. And then our last step is to label it with the equation y equals 2x minus 5. And that's how we use the equation to graph a line.